Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever time limit audio edition. My name is Jack Wan, your host and writer of the site. Today is a very special episode as we're in the most important time of the year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. First, I want to say Happy New Year and wish your holiday season was relaxing and fulfilling. But with that out of the way, all eyes in the wrestling world will turn to January 4th in the Tokyo Dome. It's Wrestle Kingdom season. All of 2023 for New Japan has led up to this day. So many tournaments and storylines will all culminate under the same roof, and we're just hours away. We have a lot to look back on, plus a lot to look ahead to. And for that, I brought on the perfect guest. Joseph Casciaro is a reporter for SlamWrestling.net. Since 2022, Joseph has written all about the wrestling world, from local Toronto events to the top stories in the industry. He has also closely covered the New Japan Pro Wrestling beat for Slam, waking up at the crack of dawn to review and cover most of the top shows of the year. Joseph, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, Jack. It's an exciting time of the year for New Japan fans, and honestly, this is my favorite wrestling show of the year, hands down. And it just happens right at the beginning. You're gonna get a match of the year contender 4 days into the year tomorrow night.
Exactly. Yeah. So just before we get into the discussion, I want to ask, last year both you and me stayed up and watched the show live starting at like 3 a.m. or something, going right until like 7, 8 a.m. Just the least forgiving time zone for anyone in Toronto or New York or anything like that. Are you gonna be doing that again this year?
It was in the cards, but I just don't think this card has what it takes to make me stay up all night this year.
Oh wow. Okay. So I guess we'll get into that. We'll get into that later on in the pod. I'm still sort of on the fence about whether I'm gonna watch it live. But yeah, we'll definitely get into a lot about the quality of the card later on. First to start, I just want to kind of review what 2023 was like for the promotion. I mean, you and me watched all the top events from the promotion. So, when you take all that in and when you just think about how the year was for them, let's just say like on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it?
I have it sitting between a 6 and a 7, I'd say. I think what really helped out the promotion this year was that I felt like for the first time in a long time they produced like emerging stars. Like we had some new people kind of come to the forefront of New Japan. I feel like for the last few years it's been Okada, it's been Jay White, there was Kenny Omega, but now this year we got new faces like Yuya Uemura, Yota Tsuji, um, the Bullet Club War Dogs coming to be. So I think the new emerging stars helped bring New Japan up on my ladder. I feel like other than that, it might have been a little bit of a lackluster year for the promotion.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have it around 7 too. Um, I think that same to what you said, the newcomers is something I thought was a very strong thing for them. Just the amount of fresh people who were brought in and brought in with a lot of momentum. And I did like that they changed something up in the main title picture. Just the idea of bringing Sonata in and giving him that title run was something that at the very start, at least, I was on board for. I think that later on in the year, once we got to sort of the Wrestle Kingdom build, which we're at the culmination of now, um, the momentum really did fizzle out. I don't know if the build for the show is necessarily up to the par that I was hoping it would be at, and I think that's a huge part of why I have it at the rating I have. Because when I think about a lot of the tournaments in the year, a lot of the tournaments I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the Super Juniors. I really enjoyed G1. I really enjoyed the New Japan Cup at the start of the year. I thought that tournament was like this perfect sort of way to set the tone for the entire year. But I just feel like once we got into that sort of second half of the year, it was just a whole different vibe.
Yeah, my opinion is I think when it really started to kind of fizzle out was World Tag League.
Mm.
I think World Tag League this year just didn't deliver the way it has in the past. And I feel like the winner wasn't who a lot of people were expecting to win with Bishamon winning. So I feel like it kind of soured everyone. Like it was the wrong time to have a tournament that didn't really deliver because that's the last thing you're leaving, like the last taste in someone's mouth before Wrestle Kingdom.
Mm. I think if I had to pinpoint like where it sort of shifted for me, it would probably be right where the G1 ended because I feel like the G1 was really enjoyable. There was, it wasn't perfect, obviously, but there was a lot of great matches in it. But it was just right after that, we just sort of got into this sort of cruise control where nothing really felt shocking or interesting, and we just sort of been cruising right to where we are now, essentially. Um, so I guess when talking about 2023, let's look a little more on the positive side now. Um, what do you think has been the biggest positive for the promotion this year?
I feel like this tied into what I said about my rating, and it just I feel like the new stars was my biggest thing.
Hmm.
And specifically, I feel like the best thing that New Japan did this year, this might be an unpopular opinion, I don't know. I love the Bullet Club War Dogs. And I think they like something like that, a faction like that really helped like bring something new to the product. And like I like everything about that faction except the leader, which is weird, oddly enough.
Right, yeah.
But everything else about it, I feel like really helped the promotion. I like as like I said before, the new stars. Like I loved Yota Tsuji this year. I think he had a great match with Sonata, another great match with Osprey later on in the year. And like you mentioned, Sonata becoming the world champion. It was just I felt like it was a nice breath of fresh air, and that's what really helped him this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that it was, the War Dogs, they sort of won me over. I mean, when I think about the two tag teams that they brought in, these were guys which I weren't super on board about to start, but especially that junior duo of Connors and Drilla Maloney as a duo I've really sort of come to like over the past few months. I personally thought the biggest positive of the year, just when speaking strictly like the perspective of like who would be like the MVPs, I thought the junior division was just one that didn't necessarily have the most compelling storylines, but they were the roster where you sort of put them out there in that main event slot, or just like put them in like a tournament, and they would just put together really great high quality matches. Hiromu Takahashi, who I'm gonna be coming back to later in the discussion when we get to another question, but he's been a total MVP. Other guys like Leo Rush, Master Wato, even someone who's not a full timer like Mike Bailey, who kept getting booked in the promotion and was always just a total joy to have around. The junior division not doesn't always get these like huge storyline builds, but the thing about them is that they're just so consistent match quality wise, and when you put them on a big card, they just elevate that card so much to have them in that co-main event spot, or just have them in the middle of the card to put on like a solid 15-20 minute match. And that was totally my positive for the year. um we're gonna flip things over now. What do you want to leave behind in 2023? There's some easy answers here, but I'm curious to hear what you thought about this.
No, I definitely took the easy answer, and you know who my favorite part of New Japan is. It's the House of Torture.
Oh no.
It needs it's terrible. Like it's not enjoyable anymore. Like I understand there's characters like Toriano who do that gimmick where like they're gonna cheat, the crowd loves it, like they're gonna fake their way to a win, but House of Torture does it in a way where it's not enjoyable. Like they're just boring matches where what makes it more annoying is that they're guys that could actually put on a great match, and they just don't, and they choose to do this like weird gimmick that just doesn't work, and it doesn't connect with anyone, in my opinion. I don't know. I've never seen much positive talk about them, but I think it's time to move on from that and see what these men can do elsewhere.
For me, it just their antics always feel like deflating. Like it feels like they always just take the momentum out of a match. My
Yeah, it feels like
answer, sorry, go ahead.
sure. No, I was just like even like every time they main event, I feel like they main evented so many shows this year. And you'd have like a great show, and then like the air would just be deflated from everything when you close the show with the House of Torture cheating win, and it just kind of ruins the product.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that kind of ties into my answer. My answer is kind of like yours, but in a much more scaled back way. I wrote my answer in the sense that, what if the promotion themselves are listening to this pod and they're going to take our suggestions as gospel? So I thought, okay, I'm going to be realistic. I'm going to try to level with them here. My answer was no House of Torture in the main event title picture. That's all I want. Because my least favorite main title rivalry this year easily was Sonata versus Evil, because it was a long build and it just built to really nothing in my opinion. So, I'm not against having House of Torture as a mid card act, as sort of tournament fodder, just have these guys who can just be part of a 10 team bracket, or, whatever. But just if they could stay out of the title picture and they could just that could go to other people going forward, that'd be amazing.
Definitely. They definitely need to be far away from any main event picture.
So one last one before we talk about Wrestle Kingdom itself. I want to do a 3 stars for the roster this year. If you could give 3 stars for just performance, quality, what they add to the promotion, from 2023, who would those people be?
So I'll go backward. I'll start from my third star and work my way up.
Perfect, perfect.
I want to give one honorable mention to like as I mentioned earlier, the War Dog faction. I think I won't give them a spot as one of the three stars, but I'll definitely give them
Oh,
some
okay.
credit as an honorable mention as a faction as a whole. Like the two teams. My third star is actually ties into your junior heavyweight division mentioned earlier. My third star is not Takahashi, it's actually Master Wato, and I thought he had a breakout year this year and really tore it up. I feel like any match he had this year, I really enjoyed every single one. And his story against Takahashi was great, and I can't wait for them to have a rematch in the future. My second star is Sonata. I know people didn't really love his title reign, and they still don't, but I think he's been great. I think his matches have been really well, besides the Evil match. He delivered elsewhere, and I think that's what you need from a champion in New Japan. You're not looking more for the story, more to say, and more for the match quality. And I think he delivered from that standpoint. My first star, I don't know if this is an obvious answer, but it's Will Ospreay.
Mm-hmm.
Ospreay is just, I think he's the best in the world right now, and he showed it again this year with his outstanding record of matches this year and how amazing every single one of them was. Like I can't think of a bad Ospreay match from this past calendar year. He even got a good match out of Chris Jericho. So
Oh, come on. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that seems like an obvious answer. I'm happy you mentioned Master Wato because he was someone who, when he made it to the end of the Super Junior tournament, I was personally thinking I'm not against him, taking the belt off Takahashi after winning this whole thing because I felt like that tournament he just sort of was like lightning in a bottle almost, and that the momentum he had going there was really great, honestly. My three stars, I'll work my way up similar to what you did. My third one is Shingo Takagi. I think he's someone who, in my opinion, was not given big opportunities this year. He was, apart from being part of the G1, he was really in like low importance matches. He had the King of Pro Wrestling Championship, which is like notoriously like the least important championship in the entire promotion. But he was able to just put together stellar matches and some of the best matches of the year. He had a that April match. I don't know if you saw it. It was during WrestleMania weekend, so it was a super busy time of year. So if you didn't see it, I totally get it. But he had a match against Hanare, which was just like a Cork and Hall match, but he went like 36 minutes and it was just like this incredible build. And he was someone who, like, yeah, despite not being in important positions in the New Japan booking, he just stuck out through his performances. I had to give second place to Hiromu Takahashi. I think that he was easily the most consistent person on the roster this year. He has this perfect ability to put together these real epics of 20, 30 minute matches, and he was able to do so many of them this year. And as much as you can criticize the junior division for being sort of stale or like just having it being pretty repetitive, I mean, he's run through the whole division at this point. I think that just match quality wise, he's someone you can never just sort of be like, oh, I don't really care to see that match, because every single time he gets a great match out of someone. The obvious answer has to be Will Ospreay. I mean, I think you were spot on there, giving him the top spot in your three stars. Um, it's sad we're gonna see him sort of go next year. But I think that you would be mistaken to not give him the top star. I feel like what is so wild about him is that if he wrestled two matches here and they were both the Kenny Omega matches, he would still get one of these three stars at the very least. Like that just shows how great his year was. That like even if you took like a fraction of what he did this year, he would still make that list. He's just on another level right now. So yeah, he totally gets a star spot, and we are definitely on the same page there.
yeah, you just look like one match of his that sticks out to me, like one of my favorite series against Shota Umino. Like that
Yeah.
match was outstanding, and Umino kind of had like an up and down year, and like people kind of expected more of him, I feel. But he closed his year with like probably one of the top, I'd say, 10 matches in New Japan this year against Osprey.
Yeah, and I think one thing that sticks out to me when I think about this year, about that match against Umino, is the fact that um you have all these Osprey matches where the expectation almost is five stars, right? Like when he faces Omega, when he faces names like that. But when he was matched against Umino, there was almost this expectation from some people that, like, oh, we don't know how this one could go. It could be a so-so match. It might not be amazing or whatever. But I personally thought it was gonna be great, and it was just a testament to Osprey that you can take someone like Umino who isn't necessarily too consistent with his singles match quality, and it's almost like a guaranteed amazing match, and that's exactly what we saw. So that was like our 2023 reflection. Obviously, we're gonna do more of that when we talk about this Wrestle Kingdom card here, but we're gonna go over the Wrestle Kingdom 18 card, which is gonna be happening tomorrow. Is coming out on the 3rd. Um, I guess we have to start with the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. Um, we could argue that even though this is the main event, it's not necessarily like the people's main event or whatever, and we'll get into that after this. But first, I just want to hear like what are your general thoughts about this Sonata versus Tetsuya Naito main event match?
I think it just makes sense to have Sonata have his like first massive title defense in the Tokyo Dome be against Tetsuya Naito, just because the history there. They were stablemates for so long in LIJ. They worked together, but Sonata always kind of played second fiddle to Naito for all those years. And he never really got his chance to be the main eventer because that spot always went to Naito. But now we've seen Sonata break off, just 5 guys. He's the world champion, but he hasn't really felt like a world champion yet in people's eyes. In my opinion, people think they still discredit him. So I think this match is just the build writes itself. Like to go into the Tokyo Dome, I think Sonata needs, not to spoil my pick, but I think Sonata needs to retain here and
Hmm.
just kind of solidify himself as he's overcome Naito and become that guy now. And he needs this win, I think, just to make his reign feel that much more important and make him feel like someone that people can believe to be a champion for a long time and be a champion again in the future.
That's honestly really interesting. My pick for this was going the complete opposite way. That I feel like when you look at the story of Naito as someone who for so many years has missed out on a lot of big opportunities, and someone who this year had absolute betrayal, and someone who he had considered a close ally of his just sort of leaving and looking for sort of a career without him. I feel like you almost have to give him that sort of retribution in a win on this card. But I mean, it's really interesting. I want to hear your thoughts on like what do you think about like the Sonata title reign heading into this? Because you know obviously there's differing opinions on it, but I just as much as I was big on it at one point, there's just something that doesn't feel like it's there for me right now, and part of me thinks like part of me worries like is this title reign salvageable? um I mean, what do you think about this match and how it ties into the reign? Like do you think a good result here could sort of get him back on track?
I think Sonata's had like his reign has had some many ups and downs. I think he went like kind of great match, okay match, good match, bad story, like kind of went all over the place. But I think it's still salvageable in the sense like I don't know. I know Naito's missed out on big opportunities in his career, and he's kind of like things have slowed him down. But Naito's been here before, and Naito's won the big
Hmm.
one. He stood on the top of the mountain. But I don't know. You like you said, they were good allies for so long. But Sonata needs this. Like I feel like this will just kind of give his title reign that boost it needed. Because like if you look at some parts of his reigns, I really enjoyed them. Like I loved his match against Suji. Like when he won the title, he was on fire. But
Yeah.
things obviously slowed him down in the sense of like I feel like the bad story that the House of Torture story really kind of brought a sourness to his reign, I would say. And also his I'm not sure if it was Forbidden Door, his first defense against Jungle Boy. I'm not sure if that was his first defense.
I
But
don't know if
that
that was
match,
his first, but yeah, that's definitely part of the whole story, yeah.
yeah, like him going into the North America and kind of just he didn't really
Having
get
like a
much of
10-minute match.
yeah, and we were there and he didn't like people weren't that excited to see him in a sense as he's supposed to be the face of New Japan as the champion.
I remember him being like a washroom break for some people.
Yeah, and they didn't even I feel like the way they booked the match even didn't even help because he
Yeah.
won off a moonsault and that's like he didn't even get to hit his finisher to retain his title.
Hmm.
And so I think things like that, yeah, there were some low points, but if you get a win like in the Tokyo Dome main event against Naito, I think that kind of will bring some new life to it and people might get back on board
Hmm.
because we've talked before about this how Sonata's always been kind of like he's always been great and we've always wanted him to be a champion and now that he's there, it feels like it hasn't gone as well as everyone's hoped. But if you give him this big win, I think that kind of just will solidify him as the guy where he's supposed to be. And Naito's at a point right now. I don't think he needs the win. I don't think he ever really needs a win recently. Like I think he's in a good spot where he people know who Naito is, but give Sonata this when all eyes are on him just to give him that little boost he needs.
I guess what really is interesting to me about this match is the idea that you have Naito, who undoubtedly is a star, right? And you have him against someone like Sonato, who is the champion and he has all these big opportunities. But I think it's the jury's still out on if you could call him like a star in the promotion. And I think that there's this sort of divide, at least for me personally, where I'm thinking, do you let your big event of the year have the match go to Naito, who's the star and can have his moment and has this huge fan base, or do you take the risk that you know you give this match to Sonata and he wins, and this could be something which helps elevate him to that star status, but you also just have that chance that it just might not happen. Like you do run that risk that you're sort of throwing away your main event to um someone who really doesn't gain too much from it. I guess what's frustrating about it to me is that it's one of those things where you don't really know until you actually do it. And I really am curious. I mean, honestly, I was very on the side of Naito winning this. What you've said in this discussion is pretty eye opening. So I do head into this match with much more interest now that you've made your case. Obviously, this is a match where I think no matter the result, the quality's gonna be pretty good. Sonata in his big matches this year, he's had his not as great matches of the year, but his big matches he's had good performances. And Naito, I mean, I think that a lot of people worried about how banged up he is these days or the mileage on his career, but I think that his G1 run was just a testament to the fact that he can still do those huge grand matches, and that's just something he's still capable of. So I'm personally not worried about the quality of the match. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think quality is like a worry of mine because Sonata, yeah, like you said, he did show up in his big moments. And if anyone's having doubts about Naito's like in-ring quality at this point, just go watch that G1 final and you'll see that if he needs to go, he can still do it just like he did maybe 5, 6 years ago, and he's still at that level. The thing with Naito, I find like someone that when I got into New Japan at the beginning, I found like he's someone that kind of has it in cruise control at all times, and he kind of feels like he sticks to like a routine when he wrestles. But when he has to turn it on, he can really turn it on, and he'll make sure you realize that he's still one of the best they have to offer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, so what's interesting is we have, two other really big matches on this card, and I think there's sort of this idea that one of these is like the real, like the people's main event, the one that people are most excited for. It's sort of a split between the second meeting this year in a singles match between Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada, and there's also this three-way between Jon Moxley, David Finlay, and Will Ospreay for the new global heavyweight championship. Um, these are two matches which people are really excited for. I'm curious, like which one of these is more interesting to you?
So personally, I think the more interesting one is the global championship.
Mm.
But I feel like more the people's main event, like you said before, like the one people are really looking for is Danielson and Okada. And I think that does edge out the global title match slightly, just because the history behind it and how it's only their rematch in a sense, and a rematch that needed to happen because their first match, it definitely delivered and it was a great match. But with Danielson getting hurt pretty early on into the match, I feel like it did hurt what could have happened in that match. And I feel like they could have gone a lot longer, told more of a story. So I feel like now they're getting their second chance to give us that classic that we all wanted back at Forbidden Door. So I think that's why I would give them like the people's main event. But on a personal side, I would say I'm more excited for the global championship match.
And what is it about that three-way match that's interesting to you?
I just the biggest thing for me is I want to see if they pull the trigger on David Finlay, because I don't like his year was very they really tried to make him feel like a big star. And I don't know if he ever really did feel like a big star. He
Hmm.
just doesn't, I just don't know. Something about him just throws it off. So I don't think he's bad in the ring. It's just he just doesn't feel believable as a main eventer. But I feel like they're really trying to build that up here. And you put him in the ring with someone like Will Ospreay, best in the world, John Moxley, he's a veteran. Like people know who Mox is, what he's gonna do, and he's gonna put on a good match. And Mox almost in a sense feels like I don't know, he doesn't feels like filler in this situation to me because I feel like he's in this match for the credibility, but in this sense, I feel like this is really the battle of Finley and Osprey, where who's is they're gonna give Osprey a little bit more time with the title, or is Finley gonna be move into that superstar level and kind of take a title? So he had the never open weight, and that was a pretty lackluster reign. He lost it back to Tamatanga pretty recently after like he won it. So I just
Yeah,
want to
I
see if they're
sorry,
gonna
go
pull
ahead.
the oh, go ahead. I want to see if they're gonna pull the trigger. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and when you think about the two opponents that he has in that match for Finley, Osprey and Moxley, I mean, there's more credibility to him beating Osprey than Moxley because of Osprey just having more of a presence in the promotion. So it is kind of weird in the sense that Moxley's there. I mean, from a fan perspective, I'm thinking like it's great to have Moxley in this match because it just makes it so that I mean, if you have Moxley and Osprey in the same match, it doesn't matter who else is in there. It's probably going to be an amazing match, right? But I guess yeah, it is a little weird that he is there, like storyline wise, I guess. Um, yeah, that match is interesting to me. I personally believe that it has to be Finley. You know, considering the fact that Moxley wouldn't be too present in the promotion, and Osprey's sort of going to be focusing more on AEW in the future. Though I guess a good counterpoint to that would be that Kenny Omega did hold the U.S. Championship while he was in AEW, so there is absolutely a possibility that Moxley or Osprey could win. I do think they're still investing in Finley. I don't think they're out on him, even though his year wasn't necessarily as much as great as they hoped it would be. So I do think he's going to win that. I mean, I would have to go with Finley for that one. Um,
He's
and
personally my pick as well. I just like I think he's gonna win, but I just want to see if it really happens in a sense.
what's interesting is I feel like it's this thing where it's like I think he's gonna win, but when it happens, I'm probably still gonna be like, wow, I'm probably still gonna be there's still gonna be like a little bit of shock, in my opinion. So yeah, I think I would have to go with him for that one.
It was
But
like
that's a
Moxley almost there just to kind of eat the fall. I feel like I just don't do you I don't know, like I just don't see Osprey getting pinned in this match. Do you see it happening?
I mean, I don't know. I Even though, New Japan is very careful about pins and stuff like that, Finley is someone who does have use cheating and stuff like that. So, whoever takes the pin in this, if he is going to win, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of like screwy finish.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think it would be a smart pick to have Finley for this one. Going back to the Danielson Okada match, I mean, you would think that this would be the perfect stage for Okada to beat Danielson, right?
Yeah, I have Okada winning this match.
I mean, when you just think about how their rivalry and their singles match, Danielson won, and then that tag match, Danielson won once again. It just sort of seems like an obvious step to have Okada win, especially since they're on New Japan soil now. He- Okada can get another Wrestle Kingdom moment. He's a superstar. They want to have him have those sort of huge Tokyo Dome moments. Um, so I think that's probably what they're going with there. And that'll be a fun match. Like you said, the first time they met at Forbidden Door, it was a great match. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but it was just one of those things where it's like it's almost unfair to them that they sort of like they just the expectation for them is so high. So
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, yeah, it's probably gonna be a fun match. So moving
I'm
on,
ex
we're
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I'm expecting that to be like match of the night quality wise. I'm expecting like a classic Rainmaker performance and Danielson to pull all the stops. Like I have very high expectations for this rematch.
Yeah, if they get the time, I think this could definitely steal the show. Um, so there's so much more going on this card. I mean, there's obviously so many other matches that we haven't even touched on. I just want to say, like, give us a quick rundown of like a couple matches or something like that are most interesting to you on this card.
So I would say my like the match I'm most excited for would definitely be besides the ones we talked already is the Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors defending against Catch 2-2 because they've built a story there with like War Dogs and their cheating and their attacks and all that. And I feel like their match quality, like those four guys, you put them in the ring, they're going to give you a great match. And like I've mentioned so many times already, the War Dogs have really won me over this year. And I just want to see them. I hope they get the win in the Tokyo Dome, and I want to see them continue their reign and just show that like they brought new life to Bullet Club in New Japan, in my opinion. Another match I'm really excited for is the junior heavyweight championship, Takahashi against El Desperado. Takahashi wanted this match, and if he's demanding this match, I'm expecting him to put on quite the performance. And he always does deliver. And I'm at the Tokyo Dome, and you want a singles match, you got your singles match, you better put on an insane match, and that's exactly what I'm expecting. And then one good match too will be the two young guys going at it with Yota Tsuji and Uemura. That's going to be an exciting match. I feel like that'll kind of. I feel like whoever wins that match will be pushed into a championship feud in the near future.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have that written down as one of the matches I'm most looking forward to. Suji and Uemura are two guys who just had a great return to the promotion this year. I mean, they sort of came in and exceed expectations and just immediately had this hype around them that you just don't immediately get with everybody. Like the way they both came in, I would say Suji especially since he got a title shot. And I mean, you can't really top that. Um, they just both had so much momentum and it was great to see them. So it almost felt like inevitable to put them in a singles match on this card. Like that would be the best way to sort of fit them on to this card. Maybe like a not controversial, but sort of like a sort of out of left field pick. I'm really interested to see Bishamon take on El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. It's been long documented that I'm a huge El Phantasmo fan, but one thing that's really been surprising and like eye-opening for me this year is that I think Hikuleo's really fit into a tag team role. He's someone who's been criticized a lot in the past for his in-ring ability. Um, and I just think that since he's been working these tag matches with Phantasmo, he's just been really fitting in well. And they've put together some really fun matches. I don't know. I highly doubt that they're going to win this match against Bishamon, who are just um, much bigger stars in the promotion. But it is a match that I'm just personally really excited to see. I mean, those are four people who I've really enjoyed seeing in 2023. So those are that's a match that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, there's so much other great stuff on this card. Zack Sabre Jr. facing Hiroshi Tanahashi. I'm really interested to see what will happen there. Um, and even though Tamatonga has these ups and downs, he is facing Shingo Takagi, and I had Shingo Takagi as one of my 3 stars for the year, so I feel like I have to at least give that match a shout. We got to get going really soon, but I have one more question for you. Just speaking generally about this card, how interested are you?
I'm very interested in like the high points of this card. I think this card has its very high highs. I feel like it could have its very low lows, in my opinion. Like I'm not you're excited for Shingo's match. I'm not that excited for Shingo Takagi and Tamatanga. I think that could be a little bit of a sleeper match. Like kind
Hmm.
like not in the sense of like no one's expecting to be good, but I don't have high expectations for that. I love El Phantasmo. I love Hiroki Goto, but I don't know if that match is gonna like we've seen it already. I'm not that interested in seeing it again for the second time in like less than a month. And I feel like they could have gone in a very different direction in this with this tournament, like the World Tag League and where it could have led. And I know you said you have Bishima winning. I actually have ELP and Hikuleo winning that match.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But I am excited. I worry about match quality in a sense. Like
Mm.
I hope that's like it delivers the way Wrestle Kingdom always does.
Yeah, and I mean it's I feel like there's no like when I think about I compare it a lot to like last year where last year had its ups and downs for sure. I mean, we had a Carl Anderson match where the finish was botched. Like they completely just messed up the finishing move. Um, but like it's just like uh, one thing that interests me about this card or any Wrestle Kingdom card is always like how much time does every match get? Because Wrestle Kingdom is this long show, but also the top matches get so much time. So a lot of these mid card ones really have to like just like speed to the finish. So I'm curious, like what will and won't deliver because some stuff will deliver, but I mean, it's not going to be a perfect card. I know that for a fact. Like some stuff won't deliver, so I'm interested to see like what does or doesn't work. So I mean, yeah, I would say I'm on the same level as you. Is like the top 3 matches of the card are all ones I'm like super excited to see. And then after that, there's obviously other stuff I'm excited to see, but it's going to be very hit or miss from there on. So first of all, Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is the first time my blog has done any sort of audio stuff, so it's fun to do this. Before we get going, make sure to tell us like any plugs you can give us about your work. You're the New Japan voice over at Slam Wrestling, so give us a rundown.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Casciaro, Jcasciaroo. You can check out my work there at slamwrestling.net. You just look up my name and you'll find all my work to my New Japan work. Another thing is I have my first ever wrestling book coming out hopefully early in the new year. I wrote a book about the Johnson wrestling family alongside Greg Oliver and Eric Johnston. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can stay tuned for that book coming out hopefully early in the year. Coming out hoping for February, fingers crossed, but it'll be out very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna make sure to pick up a copy of that once it's out for sure. Listen, thank you again, Joseph, for coming on the show, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned to the blog throughout the week for further updates on Wrestle Kingdom developments, and make sure to keep eyes on the blog throughout the year as we sort of track the 2024 for NJPW and TJPW. But until then, we'll see you.